Monday night in Allen Fieldhouse was a big-time battle for different reasons. There was a battle of two different streaks. Bill Self, who was 40-0 coming into the matchup on Big Mondays, or it had been 9 years since Houston had last lost 3 games in a row. It was also a battle of the two best guard prospects going into this upcoming NBA draft. So it was a big night for many different reasons in Allen Fieldhouse tonight in Lawrence, Kansas. I'll get to that game in a minute. There was another game tonight in which R.J. Davis got his jersey retired at, as North Carolina hosted Louisville without Caleb Wilson once again. But they come out on top as they go into it as an underdog, as like a 3.5-point underdog, end up getting a win by 3. It wasn't the prettiest finish of all time, but they end up getting out with a win nonetheless. Now, I'll talk about different angles from both sides of this to kind of look at, optimism, pessimism, whatever it may be. On the Louisville side of things, I will say, and this is how it will be until these guys are done playing basketball together. The two guys that are supposed to take the most shots took the most shots. They took a combined 44 shots of the team's 67. Ryan Conwell and Michael Brown. Those are the guys that you want to get the shots up, 1,000%. But the story of this game for Louisville, and the reason that they lost, is that the front court, it's the story that's happened all year. Now, you can also point to Isaac McNeely. I saw my boy Jalen, I think it was Jalen, tweeted out that just a picture of Eminem, and it said Isaac McNeely when he plays a team with a pulse. That's a tough look. I don't necessarily agree with that, but on a night like tonight, 0 for 5 from 3, it's tough. But the front court, it's just been this all year. It has been like this all year, and it will never get fixed. So then Fruit starts, he has 3 points, and they bring these guys in off the bench, and they don't bring much of anything also. And I know North Carolina, even without Caleb Wilson, has one of the best front courts in America, and even the guys that stepped up, and I'll talk a little bit about that angle for North Carolina, but I know you're going up against a pretty good front court, but you're going to have to at least bring something. And now, I think this was a Louisville fan that I saw tweet this, where they had said, imagine instead of going and getting Adrian Woolley, who's coming off the bench, and I think he's going to be a really good player once he gets some more shine at this level. Imagine if instead of going to get him, they went and paid money for a pretty solid big, what this team would be. That would be a completely different ceiling for this team if that was where they're at now. But that's not the case. So now they're kind of dealing with where they're at. Very, very tough one. I mean, they kind of, I feel like North Carolina forced them into taking even worse shots than they'll take some bad shots. And I know they took a lot of threes. They ended up taking 39 threes tonight. They hit 14 of them. I know they just take a lot of threes. It's how PK plays, how he coaches, everything. But they were kind of forced into taking a lot tougher ones and a lot worse ones throughout this game. And it was disappointing to see, just as where you think Louisville should be at this point. It's not taking those bad shots. That was kind of the story of this game. But yeah, I mean, it was just not enough. I mean, hitting 14 threes, obviously, if you look at it in that aspect, you're all right, 14 threes, whatever. But it's out of 39, that's 36%. Not going to be good enough. I mentioned Isaac McNeely, 0 points. Just not a great game for him. I feel like his role was kind of shifted where, especially early, it felt like Michael Brown had more of he still has the pop, but it felt like early on it was oh shoot. Most people didn't know that he was going to be on this level. So I feel like early in the year he was kind of able to kind of blow by people a whole lot easier, and then that would make everybody collapse. Isaac McNeely was getting wide open threes. He'll still get some open ones, but I feel like they're even tougher to find out now, and so he can never really get into the flow of things. Isaac McNeely, he's obviously an incredible shooter, but these type games are just tough looks for him. Conwell has 23, Michael Brown has 24. They both balled out, and they weren't the most efficient points ever, but those are the guys that have to get the shots up, and they did their thing. Javon Hadley, I thought he played well again, but overall, I'll say this as an optimism thing, and look, if you've been around and listened for a while, I don't like Louisville, but I can spin this, and I will tell you this right now. Yes, there's probably a ceiling. I don't know where they're technically projected right now when it comes to the bracket, but this backcourt is obviously much better than last year's. Last year's backcourt for Louisville was pretty solid. They just kind of had to deal with Stephen Ashworth and him going nuclear in Rupp Arena. This year, though, there's not many backcourts that are more feared, I would say, in the country than this one. Especially since Michael got back, because game by game, he's going to get, whether his numbers suggest it or not, like he's going to get more familiar and more comfortable with it. Game by game, this backcourt just continues to flow and get it, and like these shots are going to fall. And the cliche, guards win in March. Like, yes, it sucks that you don't have a big. Like, that is absolutely brutal. That's going to probably be the reason your season ends. But guards win in March, and there's a chance that this team could just make a crazy run because, like, one guy can do it, and you have two of them. And I know I've been a Ryan Conwell guy, and I've been a fan of him for years on years now. Like, Ryan Conwell is a lot of teams' number ones. There's not many teams that like are out there that would have him and him not be their number one. And then you have Michael Brown who's going to go top 10 in the draft. Like, that duo right there alone, and you're going to have some Isaac McNeely games. There's going to be Adrian Woolley games. Like, they're going to figure it out. It's just obviously defensively, it's not great. But guards win in March, and that's the thing that can be the optimism. It's literally just get in, which they're going to. It's literally just get in and you're going to win some games. Like, that's how I feel. You kind of, I feel like this year, especially last year, but this year also, you really, really, really want to avoid the 8-9 because you don't want to play these ones. So I think Louisville, if you're looking around and you're able to end up where you're playing a 2 or something in the second round, and you can get to that point, that's going to be really, really just encouraging because this team has the guards to be able to make a run. On the North Carolina side of things, I had mentioned guys stepped up. This is very, very similar to Bill Self said after the Kansas win. Spoiler, if you didn't know that had happened. I don't know. I feel like you're tuning in and you want to hear the thoughts on that. So you probably knew that. But Bill Self said after they beat Houston tonight that in the absence of DP, Darren Peterson, that guys they kind of had to step up and like figure out what they are and like just learn and be able to fill these roles while their star is out. That's exactly what I think North Carolina's having to go through. Like, what Derek Dixon has brought recently has been amazing. Henry Vesar coming back, he's kind of in an even bigger role now. Coming back from injury is pretty tough anyways, but Jaron Stevenson, I think he's stepped up big time. Luka Bogovac, like he's taken another step forward. Kyan Evans comes in, plays good minutes, I think. Zayden High, in a time where you're missing the stud, being able to come in and play good minutes, it's really, really encouraging. And the man I didn't mention yet, Seth Trimble. There's not many guys in the sport that I would like to see succeed more than Seth Trimble. A guy that stuck around, battled injuries, and went through it this year, goes out and has 30. And I know Louisville is not the 04 Pistons when it comes to the defensive end, but he was doing whatever he wanted, and sometimes wasn't necessarily the most protected rim ever. But even when it was pretty solid defense, he's getting in there and finishing through everything. So he ended up hitting, he hit the 1-3 at the top of the key, 7 for 11 from the line, ended up with 30 points. Really, really cool. North Carolina's still undefeated at home this year, which is really interesting. But Seth Trimble, great game. Like I said, there's not many guys that I really want to see succeed more than him. But North Carolina, these guys have really stepped up in the absence of Caleb Wilson. And I think his target date is the Duke game, I think is what I had seen today. So, which is March 7th. So that would be, first game back, would be the last game of the year, and then getting into the conference tournament and everything. That would be awesome. Now, I do want to mention this. This is a very negative stat, so if you're a Louisville fan, close your ears. But Louisville is now 1-11 in Quad 1A games. Now, Quad 1 games, those are a certain thing. Quad 1A games are top 15 in the net, top 25 neutral, and top 40 away. Under PK, they are 1-11 in those games. And that's why exactly tonight I texted my buddy and I said, I don't think you all are winning this game. I know they went into it as a favorite, and it just did not ever feel like it was going to happen because it hasn't happened. They have struggled big time in these big time matchups. I do think PK is a really good coach. I think Pat Kelsey's going to figure it out, and I think he's the guy for the job, or at least he's the guy that saved the job, I would say. Even if it doesn't end up working out and it's years down the road and they have to kind of part ways, I think he's the one that he saved the program, the revival team and all that. But it's not a great look. The Quad 1A, just the top 25 games, it's not great. And honestly, this one they were very much in it. But there's been some that they weren't even necessarily in them. So it's a tough look. But I just wanted to point that out just as like a little fact. Not saying he needs to be like fired or anything. I think he's, like I said, I think he's the guy for the job. But it's just a really, really tough look, and Louisville falls again, 77-74. The second game, Houston at Kansas. The Kansas Jayhawks get out of there 69-56 and a victory over the number 5 ranked Houston Cougars. Houston has now lost 3 straight games. Like I said in the beginning of it, Bill Self came in 40-0, leaves 41-0. Kansas does not lose on Mondays. I did have this like fully prepared, and this happened again because the clip that had like kind of went out over after the Oklahoma State game, pretty sure, was the Darren Peterson clip where he just like hits a 3, turns to the bench, and they're like, all right, yep, let's get him. He did it again, but this time there's an angle where it shows Bill Self, and he's like, just go. I'm not doing like, and so I don't really know what the situation is. I don't think there's anything like the guys don't like him internally, because after the game you can kind of tell they all just kind of get along. But yeah, it kind of happened again. It was the same situation. He was like, just go. But to his credit, Darren Peterson did play all night. Played 30 minutes in this one. Played the full game on Saturday in the tough loss to Cincinnati. But I think I saw the stat pop up that they have not lost consecutive games at Fog Allen since 88-89. I think was the season that they said that was the last time that they lost like back-to-back games there, which is insane. Absolutely ridiculous stat. But they come out and it's like, it's so weird because like when Kansas beats these teams, they beat them. Like this score doesn't even suggest that it was like I think there was the Chris Sinak had like the last minute tip in, but it didn't even feel this close in the second half. Like it was a great first half of basketball. Kansas pulled away, got up like 18, maybe 20 at some point, and they just they kept going. But yeah, I was fully prepared to come in here and just be like, all right, the Darren Peterson saga is like very, very interesting now because they beat Arizona without him. And then there's like some like games in between or whatever, but then they lose to Cincinnati with him playing fully. And then they go into this one, and right there before the end of the half, Houston has this lead and all this. Kansas goes on a 9-0 run without Darren Peterson on the court. Then he ends up checking back in. He hits one last bucket. And then he kind of caps off the 11-0 run. But the story was like, is Kansas better without Darren Peterson? That's where the questions had began. And then I took note of that. Like, Kansas went on a 9-0 run without him. That's not the case. That's not the case. Now, they are a very good team. They're much better than I thought they would be without him. Where in the preseason there was comparisons to Cade Cunningham, Oklahoma State teams. That's far from the truth. You've got the dog Melvin Council that can go out there and fill it up. And in tonight's game, the man by the name of Trey White, 23 points, led the game in scoring, hit 3 of his 4 threes. Every time the crowd popped, he was incredible. Darren Peterson in his 30 minutes, he had 14 points, 4 rebounds. There was a couple bad clips that came from it, but this dude, like, he loves ball. He's going to be out there playing. So I don't think that's... I'm just glad he's out there, like, playing a full game again. Like, it was starting to get a little tough. But I do think, like, if this was just a full play on, like, I've got to protect my draft, like, spot and I got to make sure, like, I'm going number 1, he would have sat on a long time ago. Like, we'll just be honest here. Like, he would have sat on a long time ago. He loves ball. He wants to be out there. I don't know what that whole situation of him, like, trying to get out after he hits a 3. I don't know what that situation is, but that's just the interesting part of it. But, yeah, I mean, Darren Peterson, whenever I was talking about a pro comp the other day, I had said when he's fully healthy and, you know, at his peak and everything, like what you can kind of see of him is like a like mix of like an Anthony Edwards, young Paul George, young Kobe in a way. Like they're like, obviously those are like Hall of Fame, like crazy names, but that's, I mean, that, like, I don't know if he's going to be multi all-star and win rings and like all this stuff, but he's going to be an elite NBA player. You know, hopefully not any injuries and hopefully none of that. But he's going to be incredible. That's the type of player he is. So, like, is Kansas better without him is just all junk. It's a funny argument to have because it's like there's stuff to back it up. But that's not the case. When you're saying, like, is this team better without potentially the best player in the sport? Come on, man. That's not the case. The story of tonight, though, was Kansas on the defensive end, holding Houston to 56 points. And this is not the regular Houston of, like, we're just going to slow things down, beat the crap out of you, be physical with you, play defense. This is not like that. Like, this team can absolutely score it. And they held them to 56 points. They slowed down everything. They made everything extremely, extremely difficult. And I think now more than ever, you notice the struggle of not having Juwan Roberts. Like, Juwan Roberts was graduating. LJ Cryer, it lifted Emmanuel Sharp into a new role, lifted JoJo Tugler into a new role. Kingston Flemings is obviously a really, really great player. But Chris Sinak having to go out there and play 30 minutes, he's not quite Juwan Roberts yet. I think that's a ceiling that he can definitely reach. But he's just a freshman. Like, he's still figuring it out. But everything was extremely difficult tonight. Like, in a game where I mentioned Juwan Roberts because, like, this is the type game where, like, offense is extremely difficult at times. Juwan Roberts had the thing where you could, like, enter it into the post and he'd just go get a post hook and he'd just hit that. And that'd be like, all right, got the lid off the basket. That's very, very encouraging. And then it's like he hits one, defense kind of has to turn and, like, maybe, like, go try to jam it, double it, whatever. Then there's kick-out opportunities. Then there's all this, like, that's not there. There's no back-to-the-basket type of big, and I'm not saying they need that because that's not necessarily what works in modern basketball, but it was always a calming presence that Houston had. All these guys are lifted into a new role. Miles Uzans, I think, has got to be better. He's got to be more, I would say, intentional with scoring the ball. But yeah, it was just, everything was extremely difficult. Like when they would run, we've had many plays like this whenever I played, but like they'd run like the horn set or whatever, Houston wouldn't, and then they kind of like, they feed the big and then they'll run the guard off of it and he'll turn and kind of like stick his butt out to like be kind of like a screen. Even all of those were blown up. Like there was never a glimpse of hope to get those. That's where it got like incredible to me. And I don't know how many turnovers they ended up having, but only 8. But it felt like every one of them ended up in points though, because they jumped the passing lanes. They'd get a fast break or something. So yeah, they had 14 points off turnovers. So that was kind of the story of it. Kansas' defensive intensity was just second to none. It was incredible. And yeah, Trey White was awesome. And also with the Chris Sinak thing and these other bigs with Sacco and some of these guys that play, like the physical presence of Flory Badunga is a very, very difficult one that like a guy like Juwan Roberts is able to deal with. And obviously there's no like bringing him back. There's none of that, but it's just, I think these are the type of games where you notice, like, man, that really does suck to lose a like senior leader that had been around for a while. But yeah, that was kind of the story of it. But big time win for Kansas, 11-4 in Big 12 play. This to me just like feels like Arizona's just gonna run away with the Big 12. That's what it feels like. And these two are just not a notch below because like obviously Houston was close to it. They were actually a favorite against them this past weekend, and then Kansas literally beat them. So, not that they're like just miles ahead of these teams. It's just kind of that's how it feels like it's going to finish. But yeah, like I said, Houston lost their 3rd straight game for the first time since January of 2017. So it had been a minute, but Kansas accomplishes the big time feat. I'll talk about a little bit of this weekend now because I did not have a chance to go over these. My Cats actually fell too, so I'll mention that. Michigan and Duke were the story of the weekend. That was kind of it was a 1 versus 3 game, and then there was a 4 versus 2 game with Houston and Arizona. It was awesome. Incredible day. All I did was watch basketball all day, but by the time it was nighttime, I did not have an opportunity to jump on and film anything. The story of this was Duke absolutely dominating the glass. Dominant. Like 41-28. That has not happened to this Michigan team a whole lot. And I think it was Kyle Tucker that tweeted it out, where in the past it's felt like John Shire in big-time moments, like whether it's the game versus Kentucky that I had the like I was lucky to be able to be at, they kind of choked that game away. Like they don't necessarily there. And I was a John Calipari, still a John Calipari fan, but he was my head coach for a long time. There's a little bit of like just dribble the clock out. Like time is our friend. Let's just kind of like not worry about it. But this one to me showed a step in the right direction. There was the play that, like I said, Kyle Tucker, I think, was the one that tweeted it out, where they're drawing up that play where it's like a setup for like a flare, but they're I think they're not switching, so they're trying to fight through the flare and everything. So I think it was Marez Johnson maybe that just kind of like sat down, third man through, let whoever it was try to fight through. But as he's trying to fight through, Slim kind of backdoors it and goes and catches a lob. And that was a very, very key moment on an ATO that they really needed a bucket, and they go get one. And that's exactly like what makes this like iteration of John Shire so dangerous. Like, yes, he had one of the best teams that we've probably seen in my life last year, but the way that he's coaching this team is a lot different. And Cam Boozer, man, he is absolutely, I don't know how many times I can say he's special, but he is unbelievable. 18, 10, and 7 for him in a game that it didn't matter who was on him, he was getting his. And that was kind of the story of it. He was dominant, and honestly, the post-game stuff was just goofy. Yaxel, he's had some immaturities. I've always been a fan of him, but he's kind of starting to kind of switch that a little bit. Not saying I'm not a fan of him, but like, come on, dude. It's just kind of embarrassing, I would say. Like the Purdue stuff, like that's like what freshman people say. That's what freshmen say. Then this one, he can't even like compliment Cam Boozer. Like he's not even like media trained enough to do that. So then Marez Johnson has to step in and like say like, oh yeah, it was a really good player, whatever. And then he just throws shade at the Big Ten also in the press conference, which like I know it. I'm the one that always wishes like we didn't have the training of these players so we could get some more like raw reactions and stuff. But then I'm a hypocrite because I'm also complaining about this. But he was like, yeah, this team is a whole lot better than any Big Ten team. Which, yeah, that's true. But you could kind of flip that and say it in a different way that like doesn't just absolutely shade everybody that you'll also still have to play some. So, Yaxel, that's enough talking about his postgame. He had a great game. I'll put it that way. Great game by Yaxel. He finished with 21 points. Yes, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. He was awesome. It felt like Duke had nothing to offer against him. And their front court kind of got after it. Adamara, he was in foul trouble early. He ended up getting 4 fouls. He picked up like 3, it felt like, in 4 minutes. Like, it was unbelievable. But credit to him and that staff for kind of being like, the depth that they have is just crazy. So it's kind of like, yeah, just go get after it. And that was the story. So he picks up all his fouls, gets in foul trouble and all that, but Yaxel Lindebor plays 39 minutes in this one. And it's kind of like this team at their best form is not this. It's not Yaxel leading the show and leading in all these stat categories. Their best form is Mara with like 10 and 12 and like 4 blocks. And then Marez with like 15 and 8. And then Yaxel with like 17 and 7. And like where they all are able to contribute. Like I said, Mara, he had to deal with the foul trouble and all that. I get that. But when it's a game that like Yaxel is the one that has to do all of the heavy lifting, where he shoots the most threes, he has the most shot attempts, that's not the recipe for me. That's not why they were able to roll all these teams. They were able to roll all these teams because of the reinforcements that they had, where it was like, this is going to kill you. And then once you're able to finally stop this is going to come kill you. It's not always just the Yaxel show. Somebody else that needed to step up that did not play good at all, and I saw a tweet about it saying that he reverted back to his UNC days or something. Elliot Cadeau, 29 minutes, 8 points, 1 for 6 from 3, 1 for 8 from the field. Not a great game out of him. He took care of it, but like not a great game, not exactly what you need in this game. In a game that's like this low scoring, like a guy like that, if you can just get the lid off the basket a little bit, maybe get 12, 14 points, then they're going to have a real shot in this one. LJ Kaysen came off the bench, played well for Michigan, had 7 points. But there just wasn't enough outside of Yaxel. That was it. They got physically manhandled, I would say. Really unfortunate into the first half too. That was really, really upsetting as like a former player, coach, all this stuff. Like being able to watch that and be like, well, dang, that sucks. Because I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the shot clock was off. And these are why, like, especially in these games where it feels like it's literally a Final Four game, these possessions matter so much. I think the shot clock's off and they shoot a shot early, and then Duke ends up getting the rebound, and then they have fouling, which gives Duke a 2-point lead at half. Then you're already kind of reeling, not in a big way, but like you're already down. So there's already a deficit there. So it was just tough. Tough end of the half. But on the Duke side of the thing, Cam Boozer, like I mentioned, he 18, 10, 7, just did what he does, and he's spectacular. Gamba, I thought, played well, had 11 and 6. I thought he was a big factor for it. Slim played phenomenal. He wasn't hitting like he normally does, but he was able to impact the game in different ways, where I thought he was sitting down and guarding defensively sometimes, and then on the offensive end, he was able to provide a spark at times where it was really, really needed. Caleb Foster played well overall, kind of controlled things, took care of it, and did exactly what they needed. But the guy I got to mention that I was excited to get on here and talk about is Nick Amenya. 6 points, but he had 9 rebounds off the bench. This is a guy that I don't know how many minutes he averages a game. Let me check that. This is a guy that averages 18.6 minutes a game, but he's making the absolute most out of it. And in this one, ends up playing 24 minutes because he was so good that you could not take him off the floor. Like, rebounding, I get it. Part of it is height, but it's the cliche that it's all effort. And that's what you get out of Nick Amenya, and that's why he comes in there and impacts the game so well, like he did. And he's a big reason why Duke is able to come out on top in this one and take down the team that everybody thought was absolutely untouchable, and kind of even the playing field out, because now Duke is, I mean, they have the best player in the sport, and he's going to win the Wooden Award, and but now they have all that to back it up, and now they're the number one team. Arizona, Houston, on the other end, Del Orso is the guy that you got to talk about. Anthony Del Orso comes in off the bench to play 34 minutes for Arizona, had 22 points. He balled out. No Koa Pete still. And a bad Braden Burries, and they still get out with a great win. Braden Burries was kind of taken out of this game by Houston, and credit to Houston for that. But everybody else had to figure it out. And they obviously have the absence of Koa Pete that's always going to kind of loom and suck for them. But Karchenkov stepped up, Jaden Bradley stepped up, and the closer of all closers, he had some clutch plays late. So big time road win. And it was only the second time that since joining the Big 12 that Houston lost a home game. So that was kind of a big key factor of that. But yeah, Arizona, on the defensive end, they honestly, like I just mentioned, Kansas did it tonight, but they made everything very, very difficult for Houston. Like, nothing came easy. Not that teams have figured out Houston and their guys and everything, but like everything was just extremely hard to get in this one. And that's what's scary about this Arizona team is, like, one, they don't have to settle for threes. They don't have to worry about like all this, like, they don't have to worry about those. They literally shot 12 in this one and they won. Like, it feels like every time they win a big game, they shoot very few threes. But they can also sit down and guard somebody with the best of them. Like, they're incredible. They have the physicality, they have the length, they have all of this, and when it comes to perimeter defense, they've got it. When it comes to physicality down low, they've got it. They've got the answers for everything. So that's what makes Arizona so scary. That's why they were able to come in here and beat Houston on the road in this one. And yeah, Kingston Flemings, he was solid. Maynard Sharp was solid, but nobody else seemed to be able to come play and be great in this one. But so that was a tough one for Houston, losing that one on the road, which was also fun about the weekend. That was a fun part of it, was that the two teams that were the favorites ended up losing. Like, I want to say they were like a 6.5 point favorite. I don't remember what it ended up closing at, but yeah, they were a comfortable favorite in this one. Yeah, it ended at a 6.5 point favorite, and Arizona goes and wins this one by 7, 73-66. Great win. UConn, I will say, this was probably the best I feel like they've looked in a long time. They were playing with them there for a lot of the first half, honestly. And then in the second half, felt like they sat down, guarded, and played really well. And it was kind of a team effort, and that ended up being the story of it. But just wanted to highlight that one, 73-63. victory over Villanova, a Villanova team that I think is much better than people give them credit for in the national media. I feel like they don't get talked about enough. But, yeah, great second half, and they end up pulling away and getting a big-time win. BYU got a big, huge win, and it was kind of a tough look because it's after all this Darren Peterson saga, AJ DeBanza goes out and plays 40 minutes and dominates the entire time. For Iowa State, it was kind of tough going onto the road and playing in Provo. It's a very tough place to play. Taman Lipsey brought it. He brought all the goods. Hit 3 threes. Bateman came off the bench, played well. Joshua Jefferson just did Joshua Jefferson things, like he nearly had a triple-double. But the story of it was AJ, and like the reason why, like even with the loss of Richie, they're still gonna have a chance to be able to make a run and stuff because of having the guy that has a chance to be the number 1 pick. Nearly put up a triple-double. He had 29 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 block. He's amazing, absolutely amazing, and it was a pretty efficient 29 too. So this isn't a Rob Wright 40 ball or anything, but like Kennard Davis came in, brought enough, played 36 minutes, had 17 points, and yeah, I mean they've got enough because of AJ. Like if it's AJ, obviously you can't rely on him to score 29 a night, but like if you can get 20, and then some of these other guys can step up, and Rob Wright's gonna have some games where he's gonna either get a lot of assists or get a lot of points. He's gonna be responsible for a lot of buckets. So very, very encouraging for them. Kansas, I mentioned they lost to Cincinnati. Very, very tough one. That one, don't even really need to talk too much about it. Cincinnati, congrats to them. I will say, highlight Cincinnati. They've kind of turned their season around. They went from wearing the brown paper bags on their head, and Wes Miller apologizing to now kind of turning things around, and they dominated the second half. Because it was crazy because it was like everybody was freaking out. They were like, oh my gosh, Kansas is down at half. This is crazy. They're down 2 points. And then Cincinnati just said, like, I don't know why this is crazy. We're just going to smack you around in the second half. So great win for Cincinnati, being able to win there. I think they said it was the biggest loss to an unranked team in Allen Fieldhouse. It's like the 70s, like 75 or something. So pretty crazy. Price Sanford goes nuclear, and they beat Penn State 87-64. UCLA ends up beating Illinois. Maybe the press conference worked. You raising your voice at me? Maybe that's the reason. And they end up turning things around thanks to a Donovan Dent 94 feet buzzer beater, which I don't really understand. I understand that you want to switch those things in that situation, but maybe try to not let him get the ball. That would be the number 1 thing, because he is the fastest dude on the floor, the only dude that could get rim to rim that quick, and he ends up nailing it. There at the end, they get out with a 95-94 victory. Illinois' defense is a little bit suspect, but their offense is always going to be there. So that's always kind of the steadying force. But tough loss, very tough loss. Keaton Wagner played well, but Donovan Dent, once again, he's figured it out. That's the best way to put it. He ended up with 14 points, 15 assists, and no turnovers. Can't allow that if you're Illinois. That's not going to win you many games. But Keaton Wagner, 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. But a big-time win for UCLA, and maybe you raising your voice at me is the best way to do it. Florida goes to Ole Miss and dominates. It was just never a game at all from the start. It felt like it was just a slow start. Nobody in the crowd. So many empty seats. Florida just handled business. Texas Tech rolled Kansas State 100-72. Virginia gets a big-time win over Miami. Really fun game. Really fun game for 2 teams that are towards the top of the conference. They sit at 2-3 in the conference. So Virginia is now 1 game back. Miami's 3 games back with 2 more losses, and that one being a big one that they dropped to Virginia. But Jay Lucas has absolutely killed it in his first year. I think they said that 21 wins is the first, or the most wins in a first-year head coach in Miami history. So credit to him. Curious kind of what his job market looks like, because I have a good friend that's a UK fan that kind of wants, if it doesn't work out with Pope, they're already on the Jay Lucas train. I don't know if that's going to happen, but you definitely would need to see a year or 2 be really good as well. But yeah, we'll see what all that looks like. But he's killing it at Miami so far. They've been fun to watch. North Carolina beats Syracuse 77-64. Vasar, I think this was his first game back. 19 points, 3 blocks. Awesome outing. St. John's rolls Creighton. Really, upsetting to see Creighton this low. Obviously, they had the big win, and they continued to just beat UConn against all odds, but not this one. Never really had much of a chance in this one. It was kind of just Bell from the start. But yeah, the front court for St. John's was kind of the story of it. They just kind of dominated this game, and that was it. Tennessee goes to Vanderbilt and wins 69-65. Nate Mint has a big clutch shot there late to be able to take over, and they ended up winning this game. Jacoby Gillespie had 17. Nate Mint finished with 13. They really need a third guy, but they didn't need it in this one. They, I don't know, at times it feels like Bishop Boswell's going to step up. Dwayne Brown comes in and does some really good things, but like Jalen Carey's done it sometimes. Like nobody's been a consistent third piece, and I think if they can have the third piece, then you're really talking about the potential of making a run. But people can slow down a Mint and Gillespie. But yeah, it was a great win. Tyler Tanner, I'm pretty sure he finished with 16. I want to say he had like 3. I don't remember if it was in the first half or second half, but he had like one half where he just like basically got all of his points, and that was kind of it. Arkansas survived against Missouri, 94-86. Another Billy Richmond game. He's always a guy that I would like to see thrive because he's just an absolute, I don't even know like the best word, Energizer Bunny. That's always what I go to like these guys that just have another level of pace that they play at, and another level of like intensity that they play at. So Billy Richmond's definitely one of those. Louisville on senior day ends up winning by 17, 87-70 against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, it's rough. Not the best year, especially at this point. Alabama survives at LSU. LSU just does this to everybody, and they just it's very annoying. But the big thing is Aiden Sherrill. As of late, let me check his recent. Yeah, so yeah, in his last 4. He had 15-6, 11-6, 26-13, 12-10 with 4 blocks in this one. He's slowly but surely figuring it out. The sophomore, been in the program a couple of years, and like it feels like now he's starting to kind of hit his stride, and that's going to be the difference for Alabama. Like I said with Louisville early on in this, guards win in March. Bama's in the same boat, like one of the best backcourts in the entire country. They just need a big presence from just somebody. Aiden Sherrill did it in this one. They've had it from different people over different games and stuff, but in this one, that was definitely the takeaway to me. He finished 12-10, 4 blocks, like I mentioned. Like he's got it going on. And LeBaron Fallon and Aiden Holloway, one of them is just going to pop off every single game. It's a guarantee. And then this one, it was Aiden Holloway, and he did his thing. So, yeah, it was awesome to see Aiden Sherrill, just because like that kind of lifts him to another level. Amari Allen, really, really solid player. Wrightsell can come in and kind of help with the backcourt as well. But like Alabama's just a team that I feel like at this point you're not going to want to see once you're getting into the tournament and everything, because especially if Sherrill's doing that, that's kind of my takeaway of that. Then on Sunday, Ohio State was playing Michigan State. Michigan State won in their beautiful throwbacks that I absolutely love when they wear. Michigan State won 66-60. And, yeah, Jeremy Fears is unbelievable. But I do want to mention Bruce Thornton had 32 in this one. I think he moved to second all-time for Ohio State scoring. Gosh, it's so goofy to look at Puff Johnson's just career path. It's absolutely hilarious. Now his 6th year of college. But yeah, shout out to Bruce Thornton. Absolute dog. He's stuck around in the program for a long, long time. And so it's always fun to, like, similar to Seth Trimble, it's fun to see these guys succeed. Carson Cooper had 20 and 11. But Jeremy Fears, 11 and 8 assists to 3 turnovers. He just continues to do his thing. Right there, take care of it. Dish it out, doing whatever is needed. And then Iowa lost to Wisconsin in the Nick Boyd legacy game. That's what I considered it. 27 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. He was awesome. He was awesome from start to finish. And this was like, these are like the stat lines that if you're a stat sheet watcher, whatever you call it, these are the games where you're like, yeah, this is where the numbers back up what your mind and eyes are seeing and thinking. Bennett Starks is the only dude on Iowa. There's not a great team around him. He had 23 points, and that was about it. It was not a whole lot outside of him. Alvaro Figueres, he played well, but like, I don't know, man. Like, there's just not a whole lot outside. I'm hoping Iowa can kind of like rattle some wins here, but man, it's tough to watch because it's literally Bennett starts, which I love. He's one of my favorite players in the entire country, but just tough to watch. But big win for Wisconsin and big win for Michigan State. But I think that will do it. Big time week coming up for conference play. Kentucky lost that game to Auburn on Saturday. If you ask me about the push-off, I will say it was junk. And I'm not saying it was junk because there wasn't a push-off. There was a little bit of a push-off, but there was also a foul by Kevin Overton on that play, literally hugging Colin Chandler. But I'm not mad about like whatever they want to call right there. I'm just upset that they let the game be as physical as it was the entire game, and then it results in that. Like, I've talked to numerous coaches since then, and they're like, that's a junk call, terrible call, especially in that spot. And those are guys that had no dog in the fight. So, tough one. It was a very, very bad loss. That was the third straight for the Cats. Cats have an opportunity to go as a 5.5-point favorite to South Carolina on Tuesday to be able to go and get back on track and figure some things out because it's kind of dark over Lexington right now. But great week for games. NC State plays Virginia tomorrow on Tuesday. There's a couple big ones this weekend I got to mention. But, yeah, Tennessee at Missouri, that's on Tuesday as well. Wednesday, huge one. St. John's at UConn. Actually, it's in Hartford in this one, the People's Bank Arena. So that one's going to be good. Then you'll have Georgia and Vanderbilt. That'll be a fun one. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Texas A&M needs to get some. On Thursday, you'll have Michigan State and Purdue. Going to be a blast watching that one. Friday, huge one, top 10 matchup. Michigan at Illinois at the State Farm Center. And Saturday is loaded across the board. Virginia at Duke, I don't think is getting enough love for how important that one is. Other than that one, skimming through Kansas at Arizona, Texas Tech at Iowa State, Alabama at Tennessee, Villanova at St. John's is a big one, Arkansas at Florida. That's where game day is, actually. And then Gonzaga St. Mary's, part 2, will be there as well. Yeah, it's a great week. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Michigan State, Indiana on Sunday as well. Purdue at Ohio State. A lot of fun. Very excited for this week, and it's nearing the end. Like, literally, I don't know how far we are. Like, we're like a little over a month away from like crowning a national champion. Like, we're so close. We're very, very close to having a bracket in our hands. I'll fill one out whenever we get those on here, but like, it's very close. Do not take one day for granted. You've got to watch these games. I could not imagine waiting until March to watch these games. Feel really sorry for those people. Don't take it for granted. We're running out of time on the 2025-2026 college basketball season. But we're getting to a very, very awesome part because it's that time of the year. It's almost March. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.